silent the whole time?
It has been silent the whole time.
Sick. Hello, and welcome, once again, to my trash channel. We're not going to be doing the same shit as everybody else today. We're going to be waxing eyebrows. Disclaimer, I am a licensed cosmetologist. I'm also a barber, going to makeup school, trained by Benefit Cosmetics to wax brows the Benefit way. I get paid to do this on other people, so we're gonna start by clipping away them hairs. I apologize for my very acne-ridden forehead. I'm gonna take my eyebrow ring out. When I used to get my brows waxed by other people, they just didn't know what to do with my eyebrow ring. It was like they would just stare at it. They would never say anything. It was hilarious. They'd be like, do you want me to take it out? And they would just... So I'm loading my brow brush with brow powder, and I got a handy dandy little stick with a Q-tip at the end. I guess a cotton swab, because Q-tip's a brand. And I'm going to go to the side of my nose, straight up, make a line. That's where your brow should start. Side of your nose, side of your eye, that's where your brow ends. For your arch, that's really up to you. I go through the pupil. For the other side, because obviously you want your brows to look as similar as possible, I prefer them to be twins, not just sisters. So I'm going to make a line on my stick. So the two lines, now that first line is going to be the start of my other brow, and then the second line is going to be the new arch. That line, and my arch on the other side. And we did it at an angle, so you're going to want to go at an angle in. You're going to connect the dots. I am using the Foolproof Brow Powder. This is shade number 5, and this is a Benefit product. I like to taper my brow so it gets thinner at the end. Obviously, most brows naturally do that, but not everyone's. I am lining where the bulk of my brow ends, so any like the little stragglers are going to be what gets cut off. And then obviously you're just connecting to the dots. You can only change where your brows grow so much. You can see on the top of my brows, I've gone over the line a little. Your hair, everything inside the lines are gonna be what you keep. Everything outside the lines is gonna be what you're gonna wax off. And it's also gonna be what you trim. So when you brush all your brow hairs up, whatever is outside that line, you're gonna trim off. Trim it first, this way you don't accidentally wax off those longer hairs. Normally I wouldn't clean off the ends, but for the sake of people understanding, and this is what I do for my clients as well before I show them, I just take off the tick marks as well as any of the line that I'm not too happy with. If you really wanted to get crazy, you could fill that in to really see if you like the shape. If you're someone who fills in your brows completely. And your brows will not be a square in the front. I get that question so many times when I'm waxing people's eyebrows. If your hair doesn't grow in a square in the front, it's not going to be a square. Who has hairs that grow straight back? I've actually had that once. Not gonna lie. Now we're ready to trim them. Brush all the brow hairs straight up. They're not all gonna stay. Whatever falls back down, let it fall down. You're gonna trim in the opposite direction of the growth. And then you're gonna brush down and do the same exact thing. If you are someone like me who has a very sparse arch, you're not gonna wanna trim as much when you're going up, because you're gonna want the length to cover that gap. So any spot that you have a big gap in your brow, leave the hairs a little longer. Just make sure you brush it down when you're about to wax. Like, make sure they're to the side. This way you don't accidentally wax them off. That's how you end up getting gaps in your brows. And I always tend to trim the tails of my brow a little shorter than I would the rest, just because for me, the tails of my brow, for whatever reason, get curly. And I have found that's also an issue with many of my clients. If you're using a curved scissor like I am, and I almost just made that mistake, make sure the curve is away from your brows, because if you're doing it this way, you might cut into them. So you always want to be cutting. So brush both brows to the side. So basically, you're just going to brush them where they grow naturally. We're ready to wax. I have a satin smooth wax pot. It looks like a mug. It's pretty cute. Cheers. Skull. And my temperature is medium. Your temperature will adjust based on how much is left in the pot. Mine's about halfway. I personally test the wax on my wrist. I've only burnt myself once. Wax on the wrist, and you gotta put your muslin strip on it. Wax off the wrist. I have a bib, like a dentist bib, on my table. It's actually the exact same thing. It is a dentist bib. I ordered it on Amazon. Comes in a box of like 2,000 or something ridiculous. We're gonna use 9 popsicle sticks and obviously 9 muslin strips. Do not double dip this popsicle stick in that wax pot. And do not put the part that you touched with your hand in the wax pot. That's how you get your wax pot full of bacteria. And it is a hot pot, not a boiling pot, right? So it's just a breeding ground for bacteria. Dip, scrape the excess on the side, middle of the brows first. So just the side of it, just spread it, and get all those hairs flat. Do not worry if you get the wax in the hairs that you don't want to wax, because wherever you place the muslin strip is going to be the hair that comes off. If the muslin strip is not over the hair, it won't be taken off. So you have time at the end to wipe off the extra wax. I cut mine, so I have like a jagged edge, and then I have the flat edge of how it came pre-cut. So, pre-cut edge, I'm gonna smooth it, fold the muslin strip, and then just smooth it. 3 times is really all you need. Just like, 3 cats, you're not a crazy cat lady, but 5 cats you definitely are. So you only need 3 passes. So now we're going to go under the brow. You're going to grab your brow by the arch. This way you keep your brow straight. If you grab here, you're gonna have a nice little bump. Here, same crap. So by the arch, straight up. Get as close to that line as possible. This way you have to do minimal tweezing at the end. Because I don't know about you, but I hate tweezing. Most of my clients hate when I tweeze them as well. I always find it hard to do this on myself, the under, so I just I press. And now make sure you haven't covered any of your tail. You don't want any tail lost. And then pull the skin tight, rip in the opposite direction. And then any of the excess, as long as it's not in hairs you want to keep, remove with the muslin strip. So like right there, you can see the line of wax. You're gonna keep those hairs. When in doubt, tweeze it out. You only need a small amount of wax. Funny fun fact. Hairs grow out of my eyebrow ring hole, and I have to tweeze them out because they won't wax out. But you can wax over the hole without an issue, as long as it's healed. I've had mine since I was 16. Was it 6 years? It is 6 years. I can math. So if you've only had yours for a year, I would suggest going around the hole. Alright, top of the brow. Same thing. Pull at the arch. Okay. Flat, smooth. Pull it tight. You pull it tight so you don't get ingrown hairs. you're gonna get all those little hairs just curling right back up into that little pore you got open there. Now, because I'm this far from the mirror, I can't really see if there are any hairs missed. But ideally, you want to you want to tweeze immediately after you pull that muslin strip off. Because your skin's like in shocked state, so you don't feel as much. So it'll be less painful if you tweeze immediately after, as opposed to, say, finish one brow, tweeze, and then go to the next brow, or wait till you're just completely done and then start tweezing. Okay. Brow number 1 is done. So for the sake of a side-by-side, we're gonna remove the wax. I am using Satin Smooth's almond oil, but honestly, any oil works. I just like this one because it smells, oddly enough, like Twizzlers nibs. I don't know if any of you know what those are. It also makes me wonder what on earth they're made out of. If you're doing this with someone else, make sure they keep their eye closed. You do not want to wax anyone's eyelashes off. If you are on any kind of acne medication, but especially Retin-A or retinol, do not wax your eyebrows. You will rip your skin off. It happened to my client. She's like 14, just started Retin-A. Hair's ripped off. Skin ripped off. It was fun. She was bleeding. Also, tweezing, same thing applies. Pull the skin tight when you tweeze. So many of my clients will tweeze the center of their brows, so they don't obviously have a unibrow. And they have so many ingrown hairs. You wouldn't try to give yourself a nose job. You would trust a surgeon. So why is hairdressing and other cosmetic things taken so late? It's your face. You want it done right. Bad hair day, your whole day is ruined. Bad brow day, you got a bunch of months ruined because once you screw up your brows, you gotta wait at least 3 months. It takes 3 months for that hair to come back. I'm okay with a few hairs not being perfect because I fill them in. So I'd rather have a hair there than no hair there. Now, you're done waxing. Put your lid back on top. Turn your wax pot off. Unplug it if that's necessary. I just screw the lid on just because you don't want things from your house to fall in the wax pot because you wouldn't even know, especially while it's cooling down. It'll just sink to the bottom. If you have children in the house, they can stick their hands in it. If you, for instance, work at Ulta and a child goes into your wax pot, you gotta throw the whole wax pot out now. Yeah. That's all, folks.